Sherpa, and today we're going to be doing this really fun still life of dandelion puffs. We're going to be breaking it down step by step for acrylic painting for beginners, totally focused for beginners. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He helps me bring these easy painting classes to you by making sure that when I'm demonstrating a technique or explaining something, you can see it in one of our many cameras. He zooms in and he checks for like sound in the background. This is a live show. We're live. We like to do these live streaming. If you're here for the live and you have a question, put it all in caps. You'll notice that there are people who have little wrenches. Those are our moderators. There are people who are just like you. They just watched a lot of the shows and they know where the videos are, so they can help you find answers. And sometimes they've just been watching so long they know what my answer would be. And you might even get your question answered on the show. Also, I don't know what is also. Also, check the description down below. Now I remember what it is. So I'm going to demonstrate how to grid and draw this in, but you can use the traceable. You don't have to do that process. So if you're not into drawing, I've got the traceable. You can just download that and transfer that on. And if you don't know how to do that, I have a video on how to do that. But basically, I'm going to break down everything I'm doing and really explain to you how I'm doing it, but also importantly, why I'm doing it. And that will really help you not just do this painting, but do other paintings. So this is a still life where you're going to be learning a lot about value. I really like this because it's a limited palette and it teaches a lot of value, and there's some interesting textures in here. So it's actually, I would set this up in my own like studio to do a still life because I think it's a compelling still life. Alrighty. Now that we know what we're doing and why we're doing it, we are painting this dandelion still life, and we're doing it because we love painting and we need a break from adulting. That's what we're doing. I'm small now. Yay!
You're mini me.
Mini cinnamon. Yeah, I like that when I get mini small. Cinnamon. Get small. Talk in a little tiny voice. Okay, no, this is serious. This is art. We've got to be serious about it. All right. I am going to go over the materials so you know what we're using for today's class. I am working on an 8x8 canvas. You could do a bigger or smaller canvas, especially with the traceable, because it'll size up and size down beautifully. On the palette is Ultramarine Blue. If you don't have Ultramarine Blue and all you have is Phthalo Blue, you could use Phthalo Blue. Mars Black, Yellow Ochre, Burnt Sienna, Phthalo Green, Cad Yellow Medium. In the center here is Titanium White. And then this is one of my very favorite products, Satin Glazing Liquid. I always have this in my studio. It slows down the drying time of my paint so I can blend longer and work the paint longer. And it also allows me to glaze, which is another way of creating tints or blending. So I really like it as a tool because it does two things in one product, and it's the one that I like. They don't pay me to say that.
No.
In fact, I think I pay them for the privilege of saying that, and that I buy their product all the time. So,
indeed,
you know,
we do sell it though.
We do sell it from our store. If you want to, we have it for sale right now in our art store. If you need some, we have some for sale. So
if you buy from us, that helps support us, and so that's awesome.
That is also awesome.
It helps keeps these light bulbs on.
And this is maybe not going to be as relevant for you guys on replay, but I will just drop to you guys that are here in the live. I had too many art supplies, like. In a way, I don't have a way of explaining in my garage, which we just don't want to move again.
No.
They're brand new art supplies. So we made grab boxes, kind of like, like those grab bag boxes.
They were surplus from events and things.
So much. And they're gorgeous new art supplies. They're like high-end new art supplies. And so we're selling them on a deep. Yeah. We need to get them out of the garage discount. I think they're like $195 in retail, and we're selling them for like $77. So if you need some art supplies, or you need to give an art gift to somebody, go check that out because it might fit your need.
That was a good plug. Thank you.
I know. I don't usually do those, but
we did it. I was like, well, we gotta get rid of this stuff.
We really do. I don't want to move. It's beautiful Fabriano paper. We don't want to move again, and canvases and wonderful, paint, brushes, professional paint and brushes and all kinds of things.
Sherpa swag.
Plus, Sherpa swag. All right, let's do step one. Mary Gustafson is watching this while the twin grandsons are taking a nap. That is awesome that you have them visiting. All right, I'm going to take Mars Black. This is just Mars Black in the tube. And I'm going to just squeeze it out on my canvas. And that's just because I'm going to be painting my canvas black. You don't have to do it this way. In fact, you don't need to do it this way at all. This is just a silly way I do because I like how it looks on the shorts when we release them. When we do little time-lapse shorts of the paintings, I like how the little squiggles look like when they start the short there and then they disappear. It's like, it's interesting. Because, you know, squiggles are always interesting, I think. All right. I'm going to mist this with my water. And I'm going to take, I think, a 3/8 angle brush and just brush it all out around the canvas. Just painting the whole canvas a solid black. So that's another thing I like about this particular Value Still Life is it starts from a black canvas, which gives you guys some nice breaks. Maybe a little more paint than I really wanted on here. So I'll just put it back over here. Maybe you didn't know you could do that. But you can. Look at that. I have all this extra juicy black. Juicy means it's got a lot of liquid in it.
Juicy black.
Juicy. Now I'm going to come around the sides a good bit because I don't want any of the white to show. You can paint the sides solidly all the way down the canvas for sure. But what you have to do is kind of get the corners painted. And then I'm going to smooth out the paint to have a nice solid black field to start from. And I'm not doing this diagonally for any particular reason. And these brush strokes shouldn't show when I go to do the still life.
Can you imagine Juicy Black, the new goth line by Juicy?
Well, they owe me money if they do that then, because we invented it here. All right, so I have a nicely solidly black canvas. I'm going to rinse out my brush all very, very thoroughly because you don't want to leave paint to dry in your brushes. You might not know that, so I'm just letting you guys know. Don't let paint dry in your brushes. And then I'm going to take a hair dryer to dry my canvas thoroughly, which is going to take me a minute because it's juicy.
That's right.
And John will talk to you about stuff. And unfortunately, I took his ability to plug the new grab bag box away. So.
That's true. Took away all my thunder was ticketed. So what I do is generally, guys, so you'll find that during the hair drying breaks, I push the little button to insert commercials on them. And the reason I do that is that it generally puts a little break between commercials so it won't play one immediately. So we should get at least some minutes between those times, and then at the next hair break, I'll put them in there because I don't really say anything of any real contributing value other than to just, keep us entertained while the paint dries, because I'm a paint drying commentary. I had never really knew that when I was young a person that watching paint dry was going to be a thing in my future. I probably would have prepared myself differently. I don't know what I would have done. I don't know how you could prepare yourself for a career in paint drying. That seems to be sort of like an existential, you have to fall into that career. But, I think I did a pretty good job. I followed the pretty girl to school and...
Probably not even all the way dry either. It's just taking a long time to dry today.
And here we are.
Oh, I saw somebody come in from Utah. That was really cool. So hi back. I see that. Where did that go? Oh, it's Carol Stott. Said hi from Utah. So hi to Utah. And Cheryl Green says, hello, everyone. My daughter loves black and white as well. Hopefully I can paint this to her liking. Thank you, Cinnamon and John. Well, you're so welcome.
You have a lot of colors for a black and white painting.
Yeah, well, it's a neutral colored painting.
Oh.
So it's not super colorful.
You're not going to necessarily just go right by what it says there. You're going to, you may be influenced by that reference, but it's...
Now, I'm going to check to see if I can see my purple on here. Oh, I can see it well enough. So I'm going to make a mark at 2, 4, and 6 inches, which is 5 centimeters, 10 centimeters, and just a little over 15. And then I'm not really good at the metric, so. And I'm going to make vertical lines. So this is a grid, and the grid is going to allow me to look at my reference and draw it on my canvas. This works for doing big murals on a wall. The trick is you've got to have one of these T-square rulers. Oh, and this is a Dritz chalk tool. This is a Taylor's chalk tool. You can get these at Joann's. I've got to figure out how to get them in my art store because I use them constantly.
You know, for walls, you can use a laser version of it. The laser level that just
yep,
puts a
the
little
laser
line.
level
Those
is
are cool.
perfect. We did that for the murals in Honey's nursery.
Yep, had a big old laser level. It was cool.
Yeah. And my mom and I did a bunch of big murals. All right, I'm just making sure those lines are great. Now I'm going to mark 2 again. I'll do it here on this side. So I'll mark every 2 inches as well here. So 2, 4, and 6, same centimeters. I'm just assuming if you're not from here, you're better at math and you probably do the conversion from inches to centimeters just fine. Whereas I'm like super challenged.
We came from the imperial system that Britain abandoned for a better one.
Okay, so this grid, right? And what I'll do is if you guys don't have the ability to make a gridded reference, I will put this grid over my finished painting, which will give you a grid that's exactly to the painting I'm doing today. So even if I make changes from the reference photo, you'll have exactly what I have. Because I'm so nice like that.
Precisely.
And so kind. All right.
Was that a step?
No, that was a make a grid.
That was a pre-step.
That's a pre-step to the step.
Okay.
So now I'm going to use the grid to sketch out my painting here. And it's going to help me know its sort of relationship. So I'm going to start here. I'm using a white chalk tool. I may have to use my purple chalk. And I'm going to make a little angle. This is like a little table angle coming into right here. I'm going to come in from this, so this is like the 6-inch mark. I'm going to bring it up. And I'm bringing in this. So this is like this weird little table angle that we see coming in. Like a strange little corner. Then right here, almost to the bottom, I'm going to make a little curved line. That's the base of my vase. Come in through the middle. And I find that it's nice to do it symmetrically. Sometimes I lose my symmetry, but it is a good idea to do symmetrically if you can. And I will round it out once I get it. Then we're going to put in a little lip here. Now next, I'm going to want to, I might futz with my sketch here for a second. What's wonderful about this vase is that half of it's in such shadow that you almost don't see it. You'll barely see it. And that's going to make it nice, like on how it looks on your canvas. But I'm just making sure I got good symmetry. In my nice little table. Corner kind of coming in. Gives it just a place to sit. Sometimes you just need a place to sit. So I'm going to bring a line through here. It comes almost to the center line. Bring it up here in a little curve. And I am going to scale in a little bit the size of my puffs. Because I think dandelion puffs can get away from us in scale. Sometimes I can get a little big with them. They become giant dandelions. I guess I really want to make a wish is what it is. I'm going to sketch in the little top of this. And then I'll go ahead and give myself a nice little thick stem. Because these have wonderful thick stems, which we're really going to enjoy painting. A nice little thick stem. So that's our first little puffin. It's a puffin. Puff, puff, puffin. Oh, Ann Cahill is sitting in the line at Sam's Club enjoying the show. Yeah, that can be a long gas line, can't it? My parents used to Sam's Club, and I was always surprised at how the gas line was super long. I'm going to come up here in the upper left corner, and I'm going to draw my little puff. A little line up here. Just bring another little line down here so I have a nice thick stem. Thick stem is what we want. Then I've got a nice little puff here that kind of crosses in front. And I like that it's, you know, partially blown. I like that. I really like dandelions and still lives. I'm going to be real honest. I think that they're just, see, I went big. It's okay. It's very puffy today. Bring this nice little stem up here. And that there, so that's going to be showing that. And then I'm going to come across here up into this range. This little stem is just a little bit behind this one. So I'll just make sure of that. And then as I paint it, I can also like enforce that it is behind. So that is how to sketch it. Now this is the stage you would put the traceable on, you transfer the traceable on if you didn't want to freehand it out with me, which I'm not offended if you didn't. It's okay to take a minute and look at your art and see if you like how you've done it. Oh, this is lovely. See how this is a nice arrangement? I really enjoy this.
Nice.
I like this because there are several levels, because even though this is a centralized object, the way that the dandelions go off kind of make the painting more energetic, even though it's still. And I like that there's this sort of line in here, so it kind of creates a focal right in the center. So those were things that I liked about this, just so you know. All right, I'm going to put my glasses on, and we're going to do...
Would you consider this a step?
This is a step, and we're going to do the next step.
Now, okay, so drawing it in was definitely a step, yes?
Yeah, that's a
Now
step.
New step.
New step. Step 3.
Step 3.
Step 3. See which, like when I need my glasses and when I don't need my glasses. All right, so I'm going to come down here and start painting in the very dark brown base. So I'm going to begin with a little bit of my burnt sienna and my Mars black. So it's just dark, dark, dark. And you barely really see it. Just that dark brown, bring that around the sides. Then when I have a little bit of dark there, I can take a smidge of white and maybe a little yellow ochre, so it's just warm. And I can come along this edge here. And then a little bit through here. Just a small little highlight. Take a little bit of my black on my brush. And add a deep dark shadow off the back there. And then maybe a little fold right here. I can always come back into my burnt sienna and black. Kind of adjust this a little bit. Little white. Little yellow ochre. Kind of highlight there. Maybe do a little highlight coming off. All right, that's all we've got to do for the start there. Just kind of working that in. Should be fairly dark.
Thank you, Heather.
Oh, Heather, thank you so much. All right, let's call that a step and dry it so we don't drag our paint through there. Dry it.
Okay. So I was thinking, how would I prepare myself for a career in paint drying? I thought about it. Philosophy. I would have taken more philosophy and probably in improv and stand-up, because I mean, it seems like you got to come up with fun things to say, and that seems like you had to be improv. So I probably would have taken that and then stand-up comedy, so I could probably be more funny, because you know, I have a singular wit, generally speaking.
Okay. Do you think so?
Like, how do I prepare? Like, well, in the last break, what it was is that I was reflecting philosophically, like how would I have prepared myself as a young person for a career in watching paint dry? And I was like, I don't know how would I do that. And then I came back and I was like, I know, philosophy. I would have taken philosophy, improv, and stand up.
Christine Jansen says, why is there an even number of poofs? Because it balanced out well, and you don't actually have to have an odd number. That's something that sometimes people say, like, you always have to have an odd number to create drama in the surface, but that's not actually true. What you need is you need energetic balance to it. So I was really happy there, and it's why that photograph works, and it's why this will work as a painting.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a little bit of blue, but that's a good question. Because sometimes you'll hear like really strong statements. I'm taking Ultramarine blue over to my Mars black. And I'm going to come in and paint my vase dark on the back side. And then I'm going to be lightening it as I come forward. Get a little bit of white on there. This is just the beginning. We're going to just start blending that back. Still using my little 1/2 inch angle. Go into a darker blue black and come down here.
I had to turn the side camera up a little bit to see the difference, because the shadow of your hand just made it so dark it disappears. It's just like, ooh, into the darkness.
Well, and we want it to. That is a thing we want, because we're trying to show that extreme sense of value. So this is almost like, this is very like dramatically lit. Dramatic lighting. I would say if you're doing a still life yourself at home and you're setting it up, the things to think about are like that there are levels in this, in the way that you've set it up, like it has high levels and low levels, that there's a balance between the relationship of the pieces. And then also, more than anything, I would say make sure the lighting is dramatic, because it can take a very boring still life and make it very exciting. So really what I've done is just highlighted one side of the vase and had dark on the other side of the vase, and kind of a middle range here up the center. And it just gives me the beginning of what I'm going to be doing on my vase. Just the start. Just the start, my friend. Now I'm going to put this aside and dry everything.
Oh, dry everything so quickly?
Dry everything. Yeah, that's all we got to do.
Okay.
We're blocking it in, and then we're going to go in and refine our work later. We're going to refine it.
Cool.
Oh no, October is National Sarcasm Month. So then it's National Gen X month, right?
Seriously?
Then like the same time, because that would be like our month.
True.
As if.
It's in October?
National Sarcasm Month.
Well, it's good that it overlaps with Halloween. That's our national holiday.
I'm going to try this.
So, okay. Today's video is brought to you by you. Thank you guys for coming and visiting. It's very nice to see everyone. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Check out the store, the e-commerce store, because we have those wonderful too many art supplies in my garage sale box. Haha, it's really cool. I pack them all myself, and I send them all to you, all from my little old hands. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Step 5.
Step 5. I'm going to take a round brush. This is a number 6 Raphael Sepia. I'm going to get it a little bit wet and wipe it off with my towel here because I don't want little random drips of water. And I'm going to mix burnt sienna and phthalo green together. And then a little bit of yellow ochre. And then I'm going to start painting in the stems. Including the little pod tops up here. Roll my brush so I keep a nice point. I actually don't need that there, but I do need a little bit here. Going to add this one. I'm going to bring the stem around here and bring it in front. Painting my little seed pod. This is the darkest color value on my seed pod. It's just the beginning. Not too terrible. All right, we're going to dry everything.
Okay, we're going to dry it.
Everything.
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 Everything. So dry, dry, dry. Don't use heat. Doesn't help. It just can make the surface tacky. Yeah, just use air. Let it go over the surface. And pause us if you need to, because we'll be here waiting.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully we're going to get it edited. I'm releasing a short video on mirror neurons, which basically just proves even when you're not painting, when you're watching painting, your brain is painting. So you're still learning to paint even when you watch it. All the people who watch this first and then paint along with it, they're doing the exact right thing because that is literally what is training their brain. So that's kind of an interesting, I think, fun fact that you might not know. I'm going to take a angle brush and I'm going to get it just slightly damp. I'm going to come through here and erase my chalk. Not the puff chalk though. I'm going to leave the puffs. Now, if when you're doing this, the chalk isn't coming up, you can just paint the background black again. Sometimes the chalk lines can confuse me about my paint lines, and I want to remove those so that I'm only looking at what I've painted. That way the white outline isn't creating an illusion that I'm doing better than I am. And again, if you feel like at all that the grid isn't going away, you just come back with your black paint and paint that out. Okay, I'm gonna dry everything. Just real quick, but it's not a whole new step.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, Angela Maxwell. I appreciate that so much. And just drying it so my canvas isn't wet.
Okay, just dry. And thank you, Angela. It's always such a pleasure when you guys help and support us. I really, really appreciate it. It's like a pleasure for you to help and support us. No, I mean, like, it's such a pleasure to be here and have you guys support us is like a blessing. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Seriously, thank you.
You know, sometimes you have to say stuff and it all comes out of your head too fast and the words are out of order and you're like, man, that made me sound not so thought out.
I'm going to take a little bit of my black here. And again, I'm going to come in and mark up some of my dark shadows here. A little bit under the vase. Definitely back here. Coming off. And then I'm going to get back into my brown. Bring a little black over to it. And I'm going to add some little shading on the folds of the fabric. Add a little white, add a little yellow ochre. Come along this little edge. And just capturing the drape of the fabric a little bit. A little brown and black. I just play with these values, just going back and forth until I'm happy, till my mind's happy. There we go. We'll call that a step.
A step? Do you need to dry that step? Or are we okay to just...
I think we're okay to keep painting.
Okay.
I think we're all right. I just got to find a round blender that I'm really liking today. Okay, so I'm going to take a number 12 round blender. If you don't have this brush, you don't have to have it for this side, but I think it will just do a nice job. I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna over to my blue and black and white mixture. I'm going to add a little glazing liquid to it. Very carefully. Come along here. Get a little more color. Gonna blend that in. I'm just sort of using this brush. This is a powerful blending brush. That's why I like it. Gonna blend this in. Just playing with the gradation. And then getting the dark again. Get a little blue. Get a little brown. A little more white. There we go. Grab a little glazing liquid and more white, and I'm going to come in and sort of add a little hot spot right here. Just right here a little bit. Gently add a hot spot. Wipe off my brush. And I'll just use the soft feathering of it to blend this little hot spot. Are we being fussy? Yes, we are. That's okay. We can be fussy. So what this painting is for is a little bit of fuss. Okay. So I'm going to take a little bit of my light color here. Kind of paint this down and almost in a angled highlight. And then hit it again on the top lip. If I get off angle, I can just come back with a clean brush and clean that line up. So you can totally erase if you need to. I'm going to get a little bit of my middle gray. A little bit into my darker color. So there we go. We're capturing that little light there at the edge. So what's a nice thing about this is the study of how light creates our form. There we go. That's a very nice little lighting here. And while I've got my brush out, I'll go ahead and load it up with a little more white. Maybe some glazing liquid. Tapping a regular little highlight on the... And the reason I'm tapping it up and down, the reason I choose to tap the brush up and down, is the surface of the vase is rough. So I don't want to do a smooth, shiny highlight. All right, that is the vase. Let's get a little bit, one last little highlight coming down here. It's got to be a highlight in relationship to what's around it, but not really highlighted. That's maybe a little more than I wanted, but I'll glaze that back in a second. Come back with a slightly darker color and blend that in. That's just to show the little base of the pot. Also kind of add a little bit of an angle there, so that's nice. There we go. See, now I have the shape of the pot just hinted at. Isn't that fun? Dry everything.
It is.
Dry. And then I'm going to have a sip of kombucha and take a question.
Okay. Sip of kombucha and then taking questions, which is the inevitable sign of John. Do you have any questions for me? And I don't think I do, because I don't think anybody's been asking many questions. And I've been forgetting to push that button. But I did it. Oh, I got the button pushed. Okay, so, commercial break and questions. I accidentally pushed some buttons. What did I push? I don't know. I pushed that button that says shut, but I don't think
All right. I'm going to do a kombucha, see if there's a question for me.
You know, I was just looking over here, and the chat room is just going. You can see it. They're all talking.
They're talking.
I think they're just.
Jen
they're
Bennett says,
having a
do you
good
remember
time.
my Walkman with headphones? My son found a vintage Walkman with headphones and restored it and uses it.
And
he likes vintage equipment only.
We have a Commodore 64 that he see. I have an Apple IIgs. I'm an Apple person, so I have a 2GS vintage, all working, all original stuff. He has a Commodore 64, and it does have a 5.25. Was it 5.5 inch floppy? The actual floppy. We also have a 3.
Natural floppy?
Yeah.
Is that the technical term, floppy?
They were the big ones that had a vinyl sleeve on them, so they actually were flexible.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But you know what? It's not RAM anymore. Now it's called compute. That's the new word. Compute.
Well,
how much compute does anything have? That's what they're talking about all the time now.
Well, yeah, because they just care about it in terms of, like, you know, units of work cycle.
My mom still is like, do we have enough RAM? That's my favorite. All right, I'm gonna put my glasses on if we don't have any questions in the queue going. But I love all the talk about. Oh, and Carrie says, "Great vase."
Okay, question.
Wonderful.
Jen says, "Do you sell all the paintbrushes you use?"
I sell the paintbrushes I use. Yes, I sell all the paintbrushes that I use.
Yeah.
And I just made a video with John about like what I just use every class. So like if you were just doing this with me weekly, 3 times a week, like what you would need to have to just paint any class with me. So we just put that video together, and all those brushes that you see will be for sale in the art store. Are currently for sale. All right, I'm going to put my little brush. I'm going to get my number 2 Raphael Precision. This is just a detail brush. And I'm going to go ahead and add a little of my Cad yellow to the mix from earlier, which was Phthalo Green, Burnt Sienna, and a little yellow ochre. Get some glazing liquid in there so that it's a little bit juicy. Go ahead and start to brush those little highlights down. Now, another thing I can do is if at any point I feel like I'm going to get a little bit of my brown going into this, kind of blend the brown into that little stem. See how we're getting a little shading? And then if I need to thin it at all, I just come back with a little bit of black. See how it's very easy to thin the stem? And that'll dry matte, and then that way, if your stem gets away from you, gets thick, gets big, this is how you get it back to small. So that's how I handle it if it starts getting away from me at all. Gonna come in with a little bit of my yellow ochre and burnt sienna over here. Kind of the same right here. And then I'll get into my green and burnt sienna and kind of brush that back up into the stem. So green and burnt sienna. Brush that back up into the stem. And I'll work back into my yellow now that I have this in. There we go. I'm going to get a little bit of this kind of yellow-green here. I'm going to start tapping into my little seed pod. Let's put a few little leaves out. Leaves out, my friend. Now I'm going to get a little white over to this. Add a little bit of this highlight there. The top of this can have a little highlight. And then if I need to blend it in, I just get my black involved. So it's very, very easy. To paint those little guys in. Kind of play with my highlight here stronger. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a little of this and come down the stem at the top. Grab a little of this. Highlight a couple of these here and come down this little stem. Kind of at the edge top. So we're just creating shading within our little stems there. Isn't that fun?
It
Just
is.
a little bit of a painting. Now we're going to dry everything. Dry.
Dry. That's an important part of this.
It's a big important part.
So, just going over here and looking in the chat, making sure you guys are all having a good time in here. So nice to see everybody. I love all of the text and talking in here. I think that I'm trying to remember. I think we'll have to talk next break.
I need such a tiny brush now. I need a tiny. So tiny, John. I'm going to go ahead and get into my 0. This is a 0. Right? So this is just a micro brush. You do want a brush in your brush bucket that will give you tiny lines. I'm going to go ahead and get my glazing medium on here. Mix into a little more on my ultramarine blue and my white. And just load up on the toe. And then just do some little lines coming out. These are just little lines. They're fussy. The important thing is that they're very fine. I don't take them all the way into the seed pod. And I'll just bring these little puffs out like that. Little fussy bits. Be fussy here. It's totally okay to be fussy. Too much paint, I just like offload it and just paint the little fans coming out. I like to stagger them so that they have depth. Just working it around. I can make it slightly brighter as I come around on some of these, more defined. And then just focus on some of these stems and put them in a little stronger.
So if you had a Posca, would this be a appropriate place to
You could
use
absolutely do this with a Posca. The nib might be a little splattery if you have the really fine 1mm on your canvas. So just be careful and go slow. You know?
Test before you put it on the canvas.
Test before you put it in the canvas because it could be a little splattery. That's quite lovely. I'm going to go ahead while I'm here. Take a little bit of this light color. Just tap up and down on my seed pod. Just a little bit. That's looking very, very, very nice. Very, very, very nice. Okay, let's dry everything before we do the next puffs.
Okay, so now you don't have to worry about blowing these puffs away.
These puffs will stay attached to the surface.
But only if you don't use heat. Don't use heat on the little duder. They don't like it. So, hey everybody. Nice to see y'all out there. I love that you're all talking tech. That's super cool. Step. You ready for the niner of the steps?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to take my number 0 and I get into my light color for my stem. And I'm going to come here and just very carefully paint how the stem kind of peeks out in front of that stem. There we go. That way I've got nice layering there. We want good layers. Now this puff is just a little bit puffier. And my inclination on it is to take a grainer, a filbert grainer, to kind of get this technique or texture in. So I'm going to get a little bit of the glazing liquid into my grainer. And if you don't have one of these yet, you can take a small filbert and snip, 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 the edges out so that you get the same sort of fluffy effect. Or you can buy this 3/8-inch filbert grainer by Princeton in the Velvet Touch line. But you absolutely can make these too, so.
I love that. That's a brush that needs to have its own voiceover. The Velvet Touch.
It does. And I'm going to just make little tiny marks. Just build this puff up out all the way.
All the way. Now, if you guys have some questions, feel free to put them in caps there. Thank you, Ressa. I'm really glad that we're able to be here with you. It's one of the things we really enjoy doing.
I'm going to just kind of turn this around so I have a nice circular puff around my puff. Just building up the puff. Now, it's dark around the seed, so I want to keep that if I can.
You mean the little centerpiece?
Yeah, that little pod center.
Yeah, that's just what the seeds are all on the little tiny things that you blow off. Those are all the little seed ears.
Now I wipe this and put this to the side. Get my detail brush out again.
Well, I guess the seed pod is at the bottom of it, so that surround that little stem.
I'm going to take a little of this and dot.
Boy, I'm overthinking this, aren't I?
Yes. But that's okay.
That's okay.
That's what we get to do. We get to overthink it. And that's wonderful for us. So we still want to put in some of these. There we see the little structure of the puff. That's maybe a little lighter than I want. My big thing is not letting my lines get too thick, staying on the toe. A little ballerina on the tippy tippy toe. Tippy 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 toe of my brush, 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 brush. Just making little focus kind of slightly brighter. I might turn the canvas so I have an easy time making the fan effect. So John will have to come down here and meet me where I've turned it. There we go. But he doesn't have to, but I'd like him to. Kind of do it on a diamond angle here. So I'm just keeping this where I'm keeping my canvas. I don't move my body, I move my canvas.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have a filbert grainer, what's the next best brush to use? Jen asks.
This brush here. Just do it all with a detail brush, zero detail. You just have to do it a lot slower. Or make your own filbert grainer. That's another option, is to make your own. Get to snipping. Sometimes a Deerfoot stippler will do a good job at this, which is a brush that looks like this right here. Sometimes it'll do a nice puff.
It's hard to see that. It's this round brush with a very strong, stiff angle cut on it. It's like,
yeah.
So it's like a combination
puffs.
of an angle and a round brush, if you could imagine.
But it can be a good one for that.
Oh, this would make a wonderful, like, 30 by 40. I agree with Carolyn. Like hung big on a wall. Yeah.
This would be just a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous showpiece painting in a home. Little lines coming out. All right, we've got another little puff that we puffed.
Depuff.
Depuff to puff. Puff to puff to puff to puff. Woo, that's a lot of puff. I'm going to have a sip of my...
All right, we can take a break
The
before we
puffs
go to
are
the next
work,
step.
man.
Yeah.
But they're easy. They're just a little bit of work.
There's some power puffs.
There's some power puffs. You don't have to... Yeah, it's like they're not real hard, but they do take a lot of brushstroke. I'm going to have a little sip of this. Do we have any questions?
I think we've been asking them probably as they come along. People are pretty much enjoying this. You know, I'm going to mute you there so you can have a little drink. And, yeah, no, these puffs are turning out pretty nice. I like them. I think these are pretty sharp. Sharp puffs.
Sharp puffs. I'll show you the Deerfoot stippler on this puff. I hate to change brushes in the middle because it'll make the look different, but just so you can see it.
This is for your education.
Because I do these for education, so I'm going to go ahead and get this into the glazing liquid and get a little bit of my puff color on the brush lightly.
Now, if you didn't have a Deerfoot stippler, but you had a sacrificial round,
you could also go.
I don't think.
So you see, I can get some little. I'm not going to do too much of it, but I can still get some little.
Yeah, I see it. You can get little. You can get. This is more like hair, though.
Yeah.
It does. I like that. I like what you were doing with the other one better.
I picked it for a reason, but I just want you guys to know the magic isn't in the brush. It's generally in your patience and your time and your effort.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more of my gray going. And I find it's nice because it helps me get the underlayment of the puff, and then I can come in with a detail brush, but I don't have to do every single brush stroke with the detail brush then, which is nice. And by the way, the puffs will come together for you one way or another. Like whatever brush you use, it's more about this cumulative effect, so don't feel like super stressed over it. And get a little bit of my white back out in here. A little bit of my glazing liquid. My number 0 detail, and I'm going to come through and do that thing where maybe I add some little lines. And making a little fan pattern. Fan pattern. It builds up the puff.
Yes, it does.
So even something as common and ubiquitous as a dandelion puff, right, can be a really wonderful subject matter for painting.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I think that the daily painters demonstrate better than anybody else on planet Earth is that you can put keys and egg and some crumpled up stamps in a still life and make a gorgeous still life. It's not what the subject of your still life is. It is how you paint it. One of my very favorite still lifes, and I wasn't able to get it when they were for sale. I have cups from her, but I wasn't able to get my favorite from her, was Carol Marine's light bulbs. She would just stack light bulbs and do a still life on her daily painting. Man, I love those light bulbs. And maybe they weren't as popular, say, like her scenes of the beach or her florals and stuff. Doesn't really matter. They were genius, in my opinion. I'll come here and do some little dots.
So while you're dotting, if you're going to do this really large, how do you know what brush to use?
So you got to get your brushes bigger, and you're going to have to pick the same shape of brush, right, that I'm using. You're going to pick that same shape, but you're going to pick it larger, right? Like, so let me show you. So say you're doing a big, giant painting. Then a brush like this, like I'm not saying this is your detail brush, but a brush like this could be, got this cap down on here. All right, well, I'll have to.
Here, hand it to me, I'll take it off.
Sounds good. Take it off. But I'm going to show you, like, so you get bigger brushes that have the same shape.
That one is on there.
Right? Like this could end up being your micro detail. This one could then end up being this equivalent here. And then it's just really that too. I can find another one, I think. I have a bunch in that bucket. They're just really big.
Yeah,
all right, John got it. I just want you to be able to see the brush. It's not singularly important, but then I might do this one, you know, for the big work. I might take a bigger filbert and make a filbert grainer. So it's about sizing up. So these two become what these two are. So I have these two here for this painting, and then these two I would use on the next big painting, and then I might use a much bigger filbert. Like, here's a filbert. This would be a very nice brush to cut up. This would be, you wouldn't do that with this, but I would do about that size. See? So it would go from like this to this. So just size it up a little bit. You just get a little stronger in your sizing, and you just don't want to use brushes that are too small. Oh, if you're wondering what brand of brush this is Isabe Isacryl. It's an Isacryl brush. It's a heavy body painting brush. For heavy body paint. Alrighty, now. Gonna get this loaded back up, my grainer. Get my light puff color. Load it back up, get it all on the little tips of the brush. And I think I'll turn this a little bit so that I have an easy time.
Is this going to be the same step?
We could do this as a new step.
Yeah,
we'll do the last puff as a new step. So I'm just making sure my brush is loaded on that edge there. That's too heavy. So then I offload. And then I keep offloading. And I'll scale this in. We don't see the center seed pod on this one. So right now I've just got to build out the puff. And then I'll come in with my detail brush and put the structure of the puff in. Just making the puff fluffy. Okay. Got a little bit of a puffy fluff going. Puffy fluff. Gonna kind of straighten this out here. Now, if anything gets away from you, remember you can come back in, right? With your black. So if I wanted to change anything here, I erase with my black. I'm going to get a little of my glazing liquid. Come into my white that has a little black, a little blue, and a little brown in it. And here I might actually even add a little dot. These can have little dots in the center, because some of these little puffs are facing us now. Me just finishing out this little puff. With my little detail. So just adding some dots in the center is very helpful. And again, I always move my canvas. Makes it weird on the time lapse, but I move my canvas, not my body. Well, that's a lot of fun.
That is.
That went well.
That came very fast together.
That did come very fast together. So, I mean, it's just a good exercise in value and comp.
Ooh.
Just a lot of fun. I think I might want to feather in a little over my seed pod here a little bit.
While you're doing that, do you have any suggestions for correcting a warped canvas board?
Warped?
Warped, like it got warpedy.
Sometimes you can mist it with a little water and put it between the mattresses of your bed and reflatten it.
Yep, and if it's got a surface on it, use a piece of like wax paper or parchment paper on the painted surface side, so it doesn't adhere itself. Yeah,
you spray the back with water and then you put it between the bed. Thank you, Beth O'Brien. Thank you so much. Beth. So I'm just making sure that this is as fluffy as my original reference and just making sure these little fluffs are more towards that center, just a smidge. So that's why we do observation. Just work that in. And then when we're happy, I'm going to take a little bit of my blue and black and white. And I'm going to make a fairly, it's readable gray, but it's not going to be super, super bright. And then come to the bottom. No brighter than that. Good Lord. I'm humble, but I'm not like trying to hide. Actually, the reason I know it's not because I'm so humble that I don't sign my paintings in bigger signatures or anything, though I do think I'm actually a person who like is, I hope, but the reason is because I just don't compositionally want to undermine all the work that I did.
Makes a sense.
By doing like, if I were to do like a big red signature right here, you would see the big red signature more than you'd see the painting. Oh, PJ O'Connor is so excited to finally make a live stream. Short-lived live, though. Lunch break is over. Love all you do. Well, I'm glad we got to see you a little bit at lunch break.
Yeah, lovely to see you.
Lovely to see you. Did we put up that you can sign up for text messages yet?
I did not.
You should put the thing up.
Oh, can you go look it up? Over here. I didn't get it prepped. It's a good idea. You tell me about that. I'll go. Not you.
So we got our text system going again, which was if you want to know. Like, don't sign up for it if you don't want to know, because we will text you when we're live. We have a way to text when we're live.
Yes. And whenever we're going to do those things, we'll we try to send out a little SMS.
You tell them. I'll sip my kombucha.
Yeah, so like if you want to get, it's pretty straightforward. If you want to get notified when we do a live show, whether it's Facebook, YouTube,